So I'm a topical collector. I collect sports postcard, as well as one topic I collect is Canadian Pacific Railway. And so I did go through and I had quite a bit of paper ephemera in addition to postcards. So I put some of those together. The photos on the right side is actually from a book. It's kind of interesting. I went to Indigo Books. I wasn't even looking for a particular book. They had a bargain table, and they had this book that was supposed to be $50 hardcover, and it was on sale for like $9. And this is from that book. It's all posters, postcards, pamphlets, and such from Canadian Pacific over many years, I guess from 1880s to modern times. So you see some of the posters, or those aren't posters, but pamphlets that they have. The CPR, of course, wanted to sell themselves as well as Canada. So they talk about coming to Canada on ship or coming across Canada by rails and staying at our hotels, etc. in some of those booklets. So I went through and had about 7 different categories of ephemera other than postcards. And here's just a summary of them. The stereo view cards, they aren't actually CPR cards, but they have CPR topics in them. Brochures, posters, and I actually do collect postcards that are called poster postcards. And they're actually just postcards of posters that were at railway stations and shipping agents, things like that, across Europe or North America. And they had mini photos, matchbooks with pictures of the hotels, some illustrated envelopes, and then luggage tag and stickers. So that's just all the different categories I sort of sorted when I went through some of my ephemera. So here's a couple of stereo view cards. Again, this isn't a CPR card. It's a Keystone View Company, probably around the 1920s. But it does show one of the more famous hotels in the chain of CPR hotels, the Banff Springs Hotel. And you see it there. And then on the back, it's got a lot of information about the Rocky Mountains and the national parks of Canada, including Banff and Jasper, Yoho, various other ones. So just a quick shot of that. Here's a couple other stereo view cards. The one on the lower right, of course, is a view of Lake Louise, probably from the Chateau Lake Louise. Again, another CPR hotel. And a very famous view of Victoria Glacier. That's Mount Victoria, I believe, in the middle. And then, of course, Lake Louise. And on the other side, it says western terminus of the Canadian Pacific Transcontinental Railway and Burrard Inlet. So you can see the railway station there. There's a CPR station. And it also has some ships. I can't tell if it's the CPR ships, but CPR did have both Atlantic and Pacific shipping. And the famous ships on the Pacific side were the Empress ships, Empress of Asia, Empress of China, Empress of India, Empress of Japan. They were considered the 3 best, most modern type of ships in the 1890s, 1900s, going between North America and Japan and China. And so this is from my collection. Again, this is just a brochure, typical brochure, Canadian Pacific. But again, it's kind of funny. They're quite arrogant, I guess. They're selling not just the Canadian Rockies, but they call it the Canadian Pacific Rockies. So it's like they don't own them, obviously, but they want you to travel in their trains and stay at their hotels and visit the Canadian Rockies. Mm-hmm. And you see here just a couple of pages from that brochure. One is if you wanted to go to Vancouver or Victoria, again, you take one of the, I think there's Emperor ships went across Pacific. The Princess ships went up and down the BC coast, including between Vancouver, the ferries between Vancouver. And again, on the other page, you see Lake Louise and all the different things. You know, they're promoting tourism, of course, and at the same time, their own business. This is an interesting one, too. This came from a ship. It's kind of funny. When I first looked at the cover, you see there, it just says Saturday. I said, well, that's kind of weird. Canadian Pacific Empress Mail, Saturday. But I guess they had a service on their ships going across the Atlantic in this case. And it was the Empress of Britain. You see their RMS Empress of Britain. And it was a Marconigram from Saturday, October 8th, 1910. It was kind of interesting. I just went through and looked at it quick, but it's kind of interesting, you know, the Marconigrams. But it has things like Sir Wilfrid Laurier speaking at a meeting addressed by T.P. O'Connor, talking about renewed allegiance of Canada to home rule for Ireland. So there's a lot of kind of history in there. Cholera on a German ship. They have stock market quotes, lots of other stuff. Feared civil war in Portugal, and so it's kind of the way that I guess if you're on a ship, probably 7-8 days going between maybe UK or continental Europe and Canada, and they gave you some news, and that's how they got it from the Marconigrams. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And this is very typical. This is sort of a higher end type of brochure for tourists of the Canadian Pacific Rockies, published by CP, of course. They have beautiful photos in there. Earlier, we were talking about, I think Jerry mentioned one of the photographers in the, from Winnipeg or Selkirk that did photos. A lot of these photos, they don't mention who the photographer was. There is a couple of them that mention Byron Harmon, but this is not, the photographer aren't mentioned on this, but they're, I guess maybe CP had paid for them.
Yeah.
In addition, yeah. Good.
One of the things, there was one of the Knockman sons from the famous Knockman studio in Montreal was employed by the CPR.
Yeah, so I have another brochure where it's actually published out of Montreal by Knockman of the Canadian Rockies, and some of these photos look similar. So yeah, maybe that was it. In addition, this is kind of a high-end one that has not only photos, but it's got also nice paintings. I'm assuming, again, they aren't identified as to who did them, so I'm assuming they're commissioned by CP. So they really went all out to get the tours there, either by ship or across Canada by rail, and then you stay in their hotels and they can sell you all sorts of paraphernalia. This is one, I collect some posters. I got 3 or 4 CP posters. This is one from the Souris railway station in Manitoba. And I got a couple from there. But this one is, again, talking about the Canadian Pacific Empresses that went between Vancouver and Victoria and either Japan or China. And they're kind of nice. I've got 3 of them, as I said, but this is one of the nicer ones, just showing the ships and sort of the exotic travel that you could do if you get to Canada, or if you're from Canada and you want to go to Asia, travel by CP. And as I said, I do collect postcards that are called poster postcards. Cunard have a lot, and the White Star Line, various shipping lines, but also Canadian Pacific. So I got some of those as well. But for the CP, just give you an example, I've got about 5 different postcards with the same artist drawing of a train. The one on the right is the postcard. It's from Antwerp, or it's from a poster in Antwerp. And these would have been put up in all the different either shipping or railway stations in various countries. The one on the left, of course, is from that same book. I showed it the first slide, and that's the same artist drawing, but of course they changed the location depending on where it's from. This was out of a Hamburg. And another example, Holiday in Canada. On the right again is a postcard for my collection. And then on the left is a poster, again, from that same book, Holidaying in Canada. So that's another example of a poster and a postcard. And this is the last one of those. Again, the same, you see the printing is a little bit different. What I find funny too is some of the postcards, they black out the name of the artist. If you look here close, the artist here is actually fairly well known. I've got a lot of cards that he has done. He does paintings for various shipping lines, Cunard, White Star Line, as well as CP. And his name is Kenneth Shoesmith. And then if you look over at the postcard, they've got it kind of blacked out. If you see his name just under the lady there that's sitting in the windowsill. So for whatever reason, it's kind of maddening a little bit, because it's nice when you get a postcard, you want to find out, well, who is the artist or when was it published, those kind of things. So anyway, the posters tell you that. Another type of ephemera, I guess, from CP are these photos. These were kind of neat. There's a set of 12 photos for 35 cents you see there. This does mention that they're photos by Byron Hammond. I actually have some of the postcards of these same pictures. The one on the lower right, I collect some of the railway pictures that they have in the Rockies. So I have that one as a postcard. And it's kind of neat. You take the card out, you see in the middle of the 2 photos on the right, and you can actually mail it as well, not a postcard, but it's as a package. It's a place for a 1-cent stamp, and you got a place for your address, and you can put that in the window and send it off. Another thing I've seen in my collection, I haven't seen these for years. I pulled them out, was matchbooks. And you can see here on the left side is the front of them, CP hotels. They talk about the Royal York and various other ones. And then you can see in the back side, it's the Royal York is shown, Chateau Frontenac as well. So a lot of them basically show the various hotels from across Canada. Again, there's these envelopes, which are kind of nice. This is, I'll give you, well, two examples. I've got several in my collection, but this one is, of course, Banff Springs. That's, they call those the tally-ho rides, I guess, the horse-drawn carriages. Probably going to Sulphur Springs from the Banff Springs Hotel. And this is another example, just showing you both sides. So this was mailed to England, of course, and it shows the view again across from Chateau Lake Louise is the lake, very famous lake, and you see an insert there of the early chateau. I believe it was burned down in the late part. I don't know, it was 1919 or 1920, and they've got the new hotel now there. And another one is stickers. There's a whole bunch of these. You see the one from Winnipeg, Royal Alex, Royal York, and the various hotels. So again, they're constantly, these are, I guess, put on luggage, or you could even put them on other things, but especially luggage, showing where you've gone across Canada, maybe from, in this case, from Winnipeg right out through Regina to Calgary and Chateau Lake Louise, perhaps. Or you might have started in Toronto. There's the Royal York as well. And this is the last one. This is, I was wondering when I first got these, I said, it's kind of weird because I guess they give these to the passengers when they get on a ship, and it says wanted or not wanted. Well, who would have luggage you don't want? At first I pictured these guys throwing the luggage off the boat or something, but I'm assuming it's for, say, if they had around the world trips. Some of these trips are many months long. So you'd have luggage just for your room, short term, and they probably have storage long term for luggage you don't need right away. So I guess that's the wanted and not wanted. I don't. Anyway, that's it, I think. Yeah, that's it. So just a quick, I'll stop share here a second. That's here. Quick trip through some CPR ephemera. I remember I saw, I actually wanted to thank you, Rob, for posting those presentations from last month. And I saw with Andrews, you had not just paper, but also like plates and other things. I think the Fort Garry Hotel. I do have some of that too. I didn't put that in here, but I've got some quite ornate things from some of the ships. There's serving dishes, and one was a napkin ring that's nice crest of the Empress of Britain, I think it was. So anyway, I just stuck to the paper stuff, but that's it.
That's great. Thanks, Joe. I'm glad, and I'm glad it's a great presentation. I'm glad we recorded it too, because I think a lot of people will enjoy it.